Okay, hello folks, welcome back. It's been a while, as per usual. Once again, I have to start a video by saying my apologies for not getting back to you sooner. It's the usual thing of trying to find the spare time to dedicate to these projects. But I also thought I just wanted to get it finished, I just wanted to get it done. And I thought, instead of uploading little bits and pieces as we go, just one more video. Get it finished, put you lot out of your misery, and I can get on with something else. So that's what we're doing. By the time this video ends, we're going to have a finished helmet at long last. So I won't keep you hanging around any longer. Let's get back to it. It's back to Custom Helmet Works, and as you can see, I've moulded and cast the two side pieces that sit either side of the visor. Everything's been given a coat of black acrylic in there. That's really just to stop daylight pushing through the resin once it's on the visor. So hopefully that should seal it up all nicely.
What we're dealing with here is a total lack of respect for the law.
Alright, so we've been working on the lower jaw, and I've had to shave it back a little bit. As you can see, I had all the teeth in, but I've had to take them all out again because, if I just close that down, this was sitting quite proud. It was starting to look a little bit like a giraffe skull. Yeah, it had a bit of a snout, so I've shaved this back at the front here, and it's starting to get there. Definitely worth doing. It's closer, but the more I look at it, the more I'm wondering whether we need something extra added to it. Maybe take these last couple of teeth out and have a pipe either side coming from inside the jaw, like a breather pipe, back to the helmet, something like that maybe. I don't know. I need some time to think about that, I think. So I might get myself up onto the top of the helmet, start working on the piece that's going on there, give myself a bit of time to think about where we're going with that. Just a little tip if you're working with silicon in layers like we're doing here, it's handy just to add a couple of drops of acrylic paint. That'll do us. It gives you a chance to see what you have siliconed and what you haven't. So we're in the middle of a miniature heat wave today. I came home from work to find that the lower jaw had just dropped off. The heat's just broken the seal between the helmet and the plasticine. It's not a major setback, but yeah, really hot today. So on the way home, I picked up some of this. This is, well, it's an outlet pipe for a washing machine or some such. But this is the sort of thing I was thinking of. If we can put this piece into the lower jaw, maybe get a pipe going around the side. I might even use, I've split the, that's the clip that comes with it. I've just split it in half, and I may even make use of that to support the pipe. Something like, let's see if we can turn it. Something like that. Like I said, I don't know how I'm going to finish it here. I might have to sculpt a piece in there, but I don't know. Maybe. Right, well, just taped them in place, and I kind of like it. But my big concern is it's making the helmet bigger and bigger and bigger, to the point where it's going to become a real bobblehead affair. Thinking it's maybe the pipes that are too big. I quite like the idea, but maybe those pipes are just too big a diameter. Just once you get the jaw on there, yeah, it's going to make the helmet huge. So I might leave that for now. If I find something smaller at a later date, I can always drill into the lower jaw and do something. But yeah, I kind of like the look of it, but I think we're going to have to leave it for now. It's funny, isn't it, how an idea bounces around inside your head. I was saying I'm worried about it being too big, but the more I look at it, the more I like it. And actually, it doesn't come out any further than what's already there. Do you know, I think we might have to go for that. Right, so we're doing a different moulding technique than we've done before, mainly because I'm starting to run out of silicone and I don't really want to have to buy any more if I can help it, because it's not cheap stuff. And I've only got the jaw to do and the piece on the top of the helmet, so I'm hoping if I do a slightly different technique we should be able to make it spread out over those two. So what we're going to do is, this has had 4 layers of silicone basically painted on. And then what we're going to do is we're going to cover it in plaster of Paris and this stuff. It's called Art Rock, and it's basically it's a bandage that's been impregnated with plaster, and that stuff, when you layer it up, gets really nice and strong. So we're going to cover this with the plaster of Paris and the Art Rock, and that'll keep the silicone in its shape, so that when we take the plasticine out from inside, it'll hold it, which means you use much less silicone, and hopefully we won't have to buy any more. Of quick word of warning, I would advise, if you're going to be working with plaster of Paris, get yourself some gloves. I have seen people with their hands bleeding because plaster of Paris will suck moisture out of your hands so quickly it'll just crack your skin right open, so better safe than sorry, eh? Right, there we go. So, just in case you were wondering whether you should cover surfaces when working with plaster, I've got to clean all that shit up now. Okay, so that's plaster on top of the silicone with art rock inside it, actually within that plaster, and then a final coating of art rock over the top of that. And art rock works best if you layer it up. If you give it sort of, 4 to 5 layers of art rock, that's going to go really hard, which is what we want, obviously, because we want it to keep the shape of that mould. So fingers crossed, we can get the plasticine out, or we can get the resin in there. And then there's one final piece, which is the piece for the top of the helmet. And then we can put the bloody thing together. Nearly there. Alright, so we've got the lower jaw out of the mould, and in terms of fit, I've got to say I couldn't be happier. It's absolutely perfect. There's a benefit of the technique of moulding that as a single piece rather than trying to do it on the helmet. There are some issues using that method where you encapsulate it in like a plaster shell. It makes it very difficult to get into the more inaccessible areas of the mould and clean it out properly. As you can see, there's just a couple of spots where I didn't quite get all the plasticine out. There's another one there. Which of course means that you've got sort of small gaps in the resin. It creates little weak bits. It's not a major problem. We can clean those out and fix those up. But yeah, I'm really happy with the way that's coming together now. So clean those up and get some resin in those bits that need sorting out. I'm going to take all this masking tape that's been on it from the beginning. It's covered in clay dust and plasticine and all kinds of crap. I did think about painting straight onto the helmet, but I actually quite like this textured sort of finish that the masking tape gives it. Nothing about this has been smooth so far, so I don't see why we need to worry too much about having a nice smooth surface on here. Again, it gives it more of a beaten homemade look, which is what I'm after. So we'll get a fresh coat of masking tape on the helmet, all ready for painting, and then it's just the bit on the top to go. Alright, so we've retaped the helmet. It's tidier than it was before, but I haven't been overly cautious with it. And it's got one coat of black acrylic on it at the moment. It will need another. But I'm looking at that, and then I'm looking at this, and I really like this. And that's just too clean at the moment. So I've been trying to think how we can we can make this look a bit more messy, a bit more beaten up. And what I'm going to try is a technique with an acrylic wash. So you take acrylic paint, you thin it down with water and brush on a wash over it, and then once the wash is on, before it dries, you spray water onto the wash, and the water will eat through the wash down to the colour underneath. I don't know if it'll work. I mean, if it doesn't, it's not a big problem. You can just paint straight over it once it's dry. But yeah, something's got to give. That's way too clean looking at the moment. So we'll give that a try this afternoon, I reckon.
Too long, forcing our darkest souls to unfold, and forcing our darkest souls to unfold, and pushing us into self-destruction, pushing us into self.
Alright, so I did a little test of the spraying water onto an acrylic wash. It didn't really give me what I was after. And so I've been racking my brains, and I even thought about wetting the surface of this and blowing plaster dust onto it. But again, that didn't really give me what I wanted. So the plan is to... I've got one more layer to put. I'm going to put a little bit of colour in this, maybe some browns. And then to go back in with the black and stuff, so most of what you're seeing here will disappear. It's really just to give it a bit of texture and take it away from that flat black. Okay, it's time for the final cast, the piece on the top of the helmet, but it's probably going to be the most complicated of all the casts we've done, mainly because of the issue of fitting. On the helmet you've got a curve that runs front to back, but you've also got a curve that runs side to side, which means the fit on it has to be, well, it has to be perfect. And I've only got enough resin to do one more cast. So it's a one-shot deal if I'm not going to have to buy any more resin. So I'm thinking I'm actually going to have to use the helmet in the casting process, lay the mould on top. I still want to do a cast that's just a shell, so I don't want a solid lump, so we're still going to have to roll it around. But I'm going to do a little test because I want to protect the helmet, and I'm going to cover it in some cling film. But I want to do some tests just to make sure that the resin doesn't degrade the cling film in any way, because resin gets quite hot as it's curing, and if that stuff starts to melt, I don't want it melting all over this, so that's what we're going to do first. in case you're not familiar with it, this technique that we're using with the paint here is called dry brushing, and the idea is you load the paintbrush up with paint and then you get rid of most of it, so you've only got a small amount left on the brush, which means that when you come to areas like this where you've got detail, you can skim the brush over the top and it'll start to pick that detail up. Alright, finishing touches. What's going on top of the helmet? Well, it's going to be some of this. These are hair extensions that were donated by my daughter. She came up with the idea. I think it's a brilliant idea. But at the moment, they're just too clean. They need to be dirtied up quite severely. I've been trying to think of best ways to do that. Whatever it is, it's going to mean brushing something through it. That might be something like a varnish, or maybe even just some acrylic paint, just to get this stuff to start to mat together and give it a nice sort of crispy texture. I want it to still move. I don't want it solid. But yeah, that needs to look like it's been dragged out of a ditch. So I'll have to do a bit of experimenting, I think. So it's finished, it's done. I say that, I'm still undecided about the hair extensions at the moment, about what to do with those. I have a feeling if I just leave them as they are, it's going to take about 3 rides for them all to mat into just one big dreadlock at the back, which isn't really what I want. I don't want to have to be combing it every time I get home. So I'm wondering whether, I don't know, maybe get some more acrylic paint and some copper wire perhaps, and just form something that's a little like dreadlocks, which isn't going to mat together. I don't know yet, I'll have to think about that. Any suggestions? Fire away. I'm open to all suggestions. But other than that, it's done. So here it is.